Welcome back to Rise and Grind. I am so excited for today's episode because it's basically a story time, but it is the perfect story time for all of the things that we talk about on this show. So today I am sharing the story of exactly how I manifested my dream car that I just picked up a few days ago. I actually did not have this episode right where it was in the season, but I just feel like it needs to come out right now. I just picked it up. I want to record this. I want to put it out there into the world while it's all still fresh. So without further ado, here is a little bit of a story time and exactly how I manifested the absolute car of my dreams. So the very first thing that I just want to be so transparent about is that this manifestation took me years of time. This was not an overnight thing. This was not 1 year or 2 years. Like, it has been years of time manifesting this car. And the thing that I think a lot of people are set on in the manifestation space is manifesting things quickly. And I totally feel that. I totally get it. I like manifesting things quickly too. And there are some things that work out that way. But just because something doesn't work out quickly doesn't mean that it's not meant for you. And that also doesn't mean that you're not doing it right or anything like that. The way that this unfolded is absolutely proof of that, and it is wild, you guys. So even though this was something that did take its time, I pretty much never wavered on it. I had like a couple moments here and there, but for the most part, I always came back to it. I always came back to it. I always came back to it. I held the vision. I was doing the inner work, and ultimately, it paid off. But I feel like the craziest thing about this whole story is the fact that I had this podcast outline written before I bought the car. I had it written out like days before, and I've thought about this a lot, this particular episode, because I knew I'd be recording it eventually. This has been a goal I've been working toward for a long, long time, longer than I've even had this podcast. However, I wrote this outline, this exact one that we're talking through right now, and I jotted down all my notes days before I had proof that the car was coming, days before I knew for sure. I had a couple plans in place. I knew I was going to go to dealerships and stuff, but that really doesn't mean anything with car shopping. If you've ever been car shopping before and you have something specific in mind, you know it can be kind of a process and it doesn't always work out the way that you think it will. But I just knew. I just had this feeling, this like deep sense of knowing, okay, this shit is coming. We are making it happen. So really, the reason why I wanted to share that is because so much of manifestation and so much of brain science really is moving like it's already done. It's behaving and embodying like you're already the version of yourself that has it. And I was like, okay, well, if I already had the car, I'd be writing the podcast outline for it. So here we are. So I knew going into, the few days where I was car shopping and things like that, where I had things lined up, I knew there was a possibility I was bringing it home, but I didn't know for sure that that was going to be the time. And I didn't even know which day it was. And so I just really want to remind you, moving like it's already happening does have its way of sometimes speeding things up. Now, a very underrated thing here is I had a crystal clear vision of what I wanted. I knew exactly what I was looking for. I knew the color. I knew what type of interior I wanted. I even knew like down to little techie things and how many seats and like all these things. Like I knew on paper, I could have told you exactly what I wanted. And I was not going shopping for any other car. I did not have my options open by any means. I had one goal and one goal only. And sometimes that can make it a bit difficult. It can make things a little longer winded than they need to be because you do have such a laser focused goal. When your options are open, it's a lot easier to find something that fits. But I had very, very specific things that I was looking for that I was simply just not willing to budge on. And because of that, it actually made my mindset routine so fucking easy when it came to this particular manifestation. Every single night, okay, if you follow me on Instagram, you see my stories pretty much every day. Sometimes I forget to post it, but I am doing it even if I don't post it on my story. You see me doing a visualization before bed every single night. And I'm doing a whole episode on visualization that's going to come up in a few episodes. So more details on visualization there. But just for the sake of this story, I visualized every single night. When my eyes were closed, okay, I was driving that car. I could see everything inside. I could see the color that I wanted. Like, I can still see it now when I close my eyes. I was watching myself like park it in my garage. I even rented this car. Okay, you guys, I rented it in 2022. I rented it again in 2023. I drove it at a dealership in 2024 just to embody the version of me that would already have it and to make it so easy to visualize my life with that car. And here's why this works. Your brain does not know the difference between what's real and what's a figment of your imagination. And I believe I have said that before on this show, but just in case this is your first time watching or you need a refresher, your brain does not have a lie detector, okay? It doesn't fucking know whether it's true or whether it's made up. It just knows what you tell it or what you show it. So when you are visualizing something consistently, this is why I'm always on your guys' ass about visualizing. When you visualize something consistently, your brain starts to treat it like it's real, like it's your actual reality. And then what happens is your brain starts to give you these like little focus signals that allow you to see opportunities to make that reality true. Which is basically just another way to say that your brain is rewiring itself into the version of you that has the thing that you want. And an important thing to note here is that your brain likes safety. It likes to feel normal. It doesn't like things that are like overly scary, overly nerve-wracking. It does not like extremes. It wants to protect you. So the more normal something can feel for you, the better and the easier it will be to attract that thing into your life. So when I rented the car and I was picturing myself driving it, and I actually was driving it on multiple occasions, the more regular and normal life it became for me to be driving that car. That allowed my brain to say, okay, this is safe. We can do this. Because I'll tell you what, I did not grow up in a luxury car family. I did not grow up in a family where having a lot of money was normalized. So those things were things that I had to teach my brain were safe because they weren't normal for me. It was a new reality. It was a new version of me. So the more I normalized it, the quicker I manifested it. And just in case you're not already sold on visualization, which like, please, come on. I really hope that you are by this point if you've watched any of my other or listened to any of my other podcast episodes. But just in case you're not, there was a Harvard study that was conducted on piano players. And piano players who visualize themselves practicing, and I'm a pianist, so this is very close to my heart. I wish I had known this in college. But the piano players that visualize themselves practicing versus the players who actually physically practiced with their fingers, they improved almost as much as those who practiced physically. So the people who were simply just watching themselves do it in their mind, eyes closed, visualization, right? Fingers to keys, simply in their mind, improved almost as much as the players that physically sat down at the piano and played. Your brain doesn't know what's real or imagined. So use it to your advantage. Now, beyond visualization, I was writing this shit in my journal all the time. I was scripting about it. I was writing like gratitude lists where I was so grateful for my GV80, which is the name of the car, before I even had it. I was acting as if it was already mine. I was reinforcing the personality and I was reinforcing the embodiment of already having it. And I fully believe that those things made a huge, huge, huge difference. But I think what made one of the biggest differences here, besides my actual actions and the actual work that I did, inner work wise and mentally and rewiring wise, the number one thing looking back at this entire experience is that I was completely unwilling to settle. Even in moments of doubt, even in moments where I was like, oh my God, it's been a year, 2 years, like, when is this going to happen? I always came back to the same truth, which is this is the car that my highest self drives. This is what I would be purchasing if there were no other factors, if there were no limiting beliefs, if there was no like limitations. I know for a fact I would be doing this. And again, I'm human, okay? I would love to say that I didn't waver for a single second. That's not entirely true, okay? This shit took a long time, and I have outed myself before that I am impatient. I like when things happen quickly. And there were moments where I was like, holy fuck, should I just like let this shit go and go buy something different? But here was the key thing in those moments where I really probably would have been able to give up. It would have been easier just to kind of like go get whatever. But the people around me and my environment in those times were absolutely key for me. I can honestly say 100% loud and proud that I would not have this car if it wasn't for my husband, because there were times where I wanted to give up. There were times where I wanted to quit my business and just like go do whatever and do something different during times of difficulty. And he has never, ever let me give up. He has never allowed me to not believe in myself in moments where like I was struggling or like had a little moment, or even where I suggested we try a different car. He was like, no, we're getting you what you want. Like, we're not even going to entertain that. That, number one, was key. Number two was my mentor. I work with a mindset mentor. She is like everything to me. She's actually going to be a guest on this show in a couple months. And the absolute faith that she had in me, like, it's insane. And so during those same moments, similar to with my husband, where I was like, holy fuck, this is like taking fucking forever, she was like, stay the course. Like, she did not let me sleep on it. And even my mom, who is usually like reserved with her opinions with stuff like this, and is admittedly not like someone who loves to spend a lot of money on things like this, even she was like, Carly, you've been working for this car forever. Like, don't go get something else now at the 11th hour. Like, why would you do that? So the people around you are influencing your decisions more than you realize, and they have the power to help you stay the course when you're having a human moment and a little bit of doubt creeps in and you feel like, ugh, I just don't know how I'm going to do this. That is when the people in your circle really, really come in handy. And so take a look around at who that circle would be for you. And if those aren't the people who are going to basically check you and say, get it together, you're not being your highest self, like, you probably need a new circle. Now, when I think about how long it has been since the very first time I laid eyes on this car and decided I wanted it to now that it's sitting in my garage, I learned quite a few things along the way. And I would say the biggest thing that I learned that is probably something that everyone has to learn this way, the hard way, the long way, is that manifestations don't have to happen instantly just for it to be meant for you. I think there's a lot of like narrative in the manifestation and mindset world about things happening quickly, which we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the episode. And like I said then, I love things happening quickly, of course. But if something's taking a little bit of time, that doesn't mean that it's the wrong choice or that it's not meant for you. Even though this took years of time for me to see through and to actually have the physical representation of, that doesn't mean that it wasn't meant for me. It was always mine. It really was. There were just factors in my life that prevented me from being able to purchase it sooner, on top of the fact that I was not willing to settle for anything less than what I wanted. So finding the right color and the right interior and all of these things also took time. But let's just not forget, divine timing is perfect timing, even if it's not on your timeline. And something that's kind of connected to that is that it doesn't always happen how you think it's going to happen, and that's okay. So for instance, when I finally saw my car, and again, I had test driven others just the day before I got it. I had seen 2 others and gone to 2 other different dealerships that were separate from the one that I ended up getting it from. I was willing to surrender a bit on how it came to me. I was allowing like, all right, God, whatever we're supposed to do, you just tell me, I will do it. Like, you tell me and I will follow, basically. And so that led me to a dealership that was 4 hours from my house. Now, did I really want to be driving 4 hours, really 8 hours round trip in the car when I'm nearly 8 months pregnant? No, not particularly. However, I was willing to see it through because it was exactly what I wanted. So instead of being like, ugh, this is such an inconvenience, I was like, this is such a small price to pay for getting exactly what I want, 0% settling. And on top of that, we had the best experience ever. Like, it was probably the easiest car dealership experience. And it was just so chill. Like, there was no stress. It was really exactly what I would have wanted. And I didn't know that's what was waiting for me on the other side of it. Another lesson that kind of surprised me, and another part of this experience, I should say, that kind of surprised me is how emotional I got afterwards. And like I said, I had a 4-hour drive home to be thinking about it and sort of like left to my own devices when it came to my thoughts. So I had a bit of time to kind of process my emotions. And so much of it was gratitude, truly. But a lot of it was empowerment too, because there were a lot of people who didn't really get it when I talked about this car. And again, I've been at this shit since like 2022. So I've mentioned this car to a lot of people. I have had it on vision boards. Like, it's not a secret that I've been wanting it. So there were some people who really didn't get it. They didn't think I should spend that much money on a car, or they thought something else would be better suited. Especially once I got pregnant, people had a lot of opinions. And the thing is, there are some people who are going to think that your manifestations aren't really that big of a deal or are negotiable, right? Like, some people think this is like, oh, just a car. Like, why the fuck is she talking about it? But when you've done the inner work and you have embodied and really transformed and healed the way that I have committed to, and the way that I teach my clients to also, you realize when that happens that it's not really about the car at all. And really it has nothing to do with the car. It's the physical representation of all the inner work that I have done leading up to it, to be the version of myself who could safely purchase a luxury vehicle and feel gratitude and pride instead of imposter syndrome going into a luxury dealership. And also, just for the record, I don't think I've said this yet this episode, but I've actually never purchased a car before. I have been very fortunate in that my parents bought me a car when I was in college, and I am super, super grateful to them for that. But I've never actually had to go through the car purchasing experience before. So the fact that my very first car purchase was this vehicle is really just the cherry on top. But just a reminder that you get to just want whatever you want. Like, I didn't really care if it was my first car purchase. I didn't really care if other people thought it was unrealistic. Like, I just knew that I wanted it. I thought it was beautiful. I knew I would enjoy driving it. On top of that, my brother-in-law, who's a huge car guy, gave me his stamp of approval as far as safety measures and things like that. And so, you know, I felt really, really solid about the purchase from every front. And even if other people didn't get it, I had to just be okay with that. And side note, the fact that I was okay with it and I wasn't like taking everyone's opinions into account and allowing it to sway me is also a reflection of the work that I've done, because I used to be very influenceable. Now, I saved this point for last because I truly think it's the most important, and I also believe that it is the least understood in the manifestation space. I feel as though I'm a bit of a minority as far as manifestation professionals go, because I'm someone who loudly and proudly believes in God. And I realize that for a lot of people, those two things are conflicting. Argue with your mama. I don't care if you think it's conflicting. To me, it makes perfect sense. And this was a total God thing. I really had to release a lot of my control and allow God to take the reins and just kind of lead me. And I will never forget the day before I bought this car, I was sitting in a different car about to leave the house, and my sign with God when I'm on the right track and when something is coming and like when what I desire is on its way to me is a yellow butterfly. And I still remember the day that I was going to go for my first ultrasound with baby G when I was a bit nervous. I hadn't had my ultrasound yet. We really didn't know if everything was okay. All I had was a positive test. I looked out my office window and there were yellow butterflies right outside it that I had never seen before on this property. And I hardly see them. So I know that they aren't just like living around here. I only see them when it's a sign. And the day before, I was sitting in the car about to go into reverse to pull out of my driveway, and I look up and a yellow butterfly flew right by. And I was like, okay, we're good. Whatever happens, we're good. And just full transparency, the day before I bought my car, I think I said earlier in this episode, I went to 2 other dealerships, and those were both really discouraging experiences. So it would have been really easy for me to be like, fuck this car search, I'm not doing this, rah, rah, rah. And it was after those 2 basically like busts that I stumbled upon my current car, the actual vehicle that I ended up going to Jacksonville to get. So allow divine guidance to exist. Allow a bit of surrender. That's not to say surrender like don't do anything. I still put in the work. But just allow God to really show up for you. And that's how I feel. Like there is just absolutely no way I could have gotten every single thing that I wanted in my car, which is a very rare combination of like tech specs and color combos and all sorts of things. There's no way I could have done that without God. There's just no way. I know with every fiber of my being, it was a God thing. So that I saved for last because I truly feel like everything in my life comes down to that. And again, I realize that not everyone will resonate with that, and that's on you. But for me, I just truly believe in the power of God. And I think when you combine the power of God with the brain science behind manifestation, there is literally nothing that you cannot do. There is nothing that you cannot have. There is nothing that you cannot experience. Now, if you want visualization tracks, if you want journaling prompts, if you want hypnotherapy tracks and things that are going to help you that do that consistent work to manifest the things that you want, then you need to join Healing House. It's my membership. It's basically a hub for all of this. It is filled with mindset tools for you that are guaranteed to help you manifest the things that you want. Because truly, if you are not actively visualizing, if you are not actively embodying and working with your subconscious mind, you are making things way harder for yourself than they need to be. So I'm going to link Healing House below like I always do every week. We would love to have you in there. It is an absolute powerhouse community of queens. The vibes are just immaculate in there. So we would absolutely be welcoming you with open arms. Again, linked below. But other than that, I really just want to leave you with this and just hear my final thoughts. You do not have to settle for anything. You can want what you want. You can hold the vision, and you can really create the life that you have always wanted simply by changing the way that you think. And even if things take a long time, you're not actually waiting for it. You are just in the embodiment process. You are spending the time embodying and actively stepping into the version of yourself that already has it. And then, of course, please don't forget, God's timing is real. Divine timing is real. And that is the best timing that there is. So with that, my queens, I am out of here. I love you so much. And I am here to guide you through all of your manifesting, all of your up-leveling, all of your rewiring, basically for the rest of time. So hit me up on Instagram if you want to talk about that or if you have any questions. And again, Healing House is open to you if that interests you. I will see you guys next week when we're starting a new series. So look forward to it. And I will see you guys then. Bye.